Mystery Unsolved. I'm, of course, your host. You know my name. I need no introduction. Not that anyone watches this, but I haven't done these in about 3 weeks. That's because I have been busy working, but now I have a bit of time, so I am back. And I am back to close the latest season of Mystery Unsolved. So, what is tonight's episode on, you might ask? Well, it is on a very particular person, and it is one Barbara Newhall Follett. That may sound familiar to some people, it may not. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I didn't know who it was until I looked it up. She's an author. Well, she was an author. What happened to her? She disappeared, dropped off the face of the earth, never to be seen again. It's a mystery. That's why we're here. And it's what we're going to be talking about and discussing tonight on Mystery Unsolved. So without further ado, the disappearance of Barbara Newhall Follett. Let's get a little background on Miss Follett, shall we? Or Mrs. Follett. That is worth noting. Barbara Newhall Follett was born on March 4th, 1914, and disappeared on December 7th, 1939. She was an American child prodigy novelist. Ooh, you don't hear about, whenever you hear about a child prodigy, you always hear about Bobby Fischer, who played chess, kids that play the violin, or they're good at some type of musical instrument, really, really ridiculously good at science or math, but never a child prodigy novelist. I don't think I've ever heard of that. Her first novel, The House Without Windows, was published in January of 1927 when she was 12 years old. Damn. I didn't publish my first novel until I was 23, 24. She published her first novel at age 12. At age 12, I was in my backyard shooting hoops in the dirt. It's not an exaggeration. I literally did that. Her next book, The Voyage of the Normandy, received critical acclaim when she was 14. Critically acclaimed at age 14. What was I doing at 14? Same thing I just told you. Shooting hoops in my backyard. Throwing the football to myself. I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. All right, she was born in Hanover, New Hampshire, and she did that. She disappeared in Brookline, Massachusetts. Her current status is she's been missing for 83 years, 3 months, and days. It's still an unsolved mystery. It's like an open case. December 1939, age 25, Follett reportedly became depressed with marriage, never to be seen again. So let's just break down, before I even get into the disappearance itself, let's just break down that sentence. Most people who are married, probably at times, it's going to happen. They're going to have, bickering back and forth. They're going to be depressed. She walks out. No one hears from her. Not her husband, not her sisters, if she had any, not any siblings, not her parents. Nobody. No one ever hears from her. Let's break this down, shall we? According to her husband, on December 7, 1939, Follett left her apartment after a quarrel with $30 in her pocket, $589 in 2021. I always come across these. How is $30 in 1939 now the equivalent of $589 in 2021? I don't pretend to be smart at math, but dear God, she was never seen again. So let's back up for a minute. Follett left their apartment after a quarrel, so they had a fight, with $30 in her pocket. Why is her having $30 in her pocket? Well, I guess because, she just left, and she left with $30 in her pocket. Like, where could you go with $30, Rogers They don't mention her husband's name, but apparently it's Rogers. Rogers did not report Follett's disappearance to police for 2 weeks, claiming that he was waiting for her to return. 4 months after notifying police, he requested a missing persons bulletin be issued. Okay, let's back the hell up off of this train. He did not report her disappearance to police for 2 weeks. I could almost buy that. But 2 weeks, that's like, what are we doing over here? Jesus. I don't know what's going on over here. Okay. So I've seen a few missing person cases where like a person's not even missing for a day. And they're like, hey, my spouse is missing. Or hey, my friend is missing. And they're like, you got to give it 48 hours. This guy is married to his wife, Barbara Follett, Jesus. And he doesn't report it for 2 weeks, claiming he was hoping for her return. Now, mind you, in the 30s, this is 1939, they didn't have cell phones. But I mean, didn't he at least try to call her parents or like somebody? Like, what is he doing during these 2 weeks that she's missing? 4 months after notifying police, he requested a missing persons bulletin. Again, in today's day and age, people go missing for like a day and a half, 2 days tops. And there's someone in the family, whether it's the spouse, a sibling, parent, or even a friend, that's like, hey, so and so went missing. I'd like to report a missing persons report. Sorry, you gotta wait a certain amount of time. This guy waits 4 freaking months. As the bulletin was issued under Follett's married name of Rogers. Oh, okay, now that makes sense. It went unnoticed by the media, which did not learn of her disappearance until 1966. What? She went missing in 1939. It went unnoticed by the media, which did not learn of her disappearance until 1966. All because they were like, we don't know who she is because of her married name. Oh my God. It's going to get better. I'm just warning you right now. It's going to get even more ridiculous, which means it's going to get better. In 1952, 13 years after Follett disappeared, her mother, Helen, began insisting that Brookline police investigate the matter more thoroughly. Again, the mother of Barbara Follett, says 13 years later, hey, you should investigate my daughter's disappearance. Why did you wait 13 years? This is just getting weird. Helen had become suspicious of Rogers after she discovered that he made little effort to find his wife. Coming from the woman who gave birth to this woman that's missing. And she waited. The audacity. He's like, well, my daughter's husband waited 4 months to file a missing persons report, and you took 13 years to tell the police, hey, you should investigate it more. Like, really? In a letter to Rogers, she wrote, all of this silence on your part looks as if you had something to hide concerning Barbara's disappearance. You cannot believe that I shall sit idle during my last few years and not make whatever effort I can to find out whether alive or dead, whether perhaps she is in some institution suffering from amnesia or nervous breakdown. But it just seems like this paragraph sounds like the mother did nothing to try to find her daughter for 13 years. And to like accuse the husband of being like, hey, you didn't do your due diligence in finding my daughter. It's like, bitch, you waited 13 years to tell the police that they need to investigate more thoroughly. So, hypocrite much? Follett's body was never found, and law enforcement did not find evidence either indicating or excluding foul play. The date and circumstances of her death were not established. Well, they weren't established because they didn't find a body. Some of these are just weird. It's so weird. Well, we got a theory. We got our first theory. In 2019, writer Daniel Mills published a theory that Follett's body was found but not identified correctly. After investigating multiple missing person cases, Mills claimed to have found evidence that the body of Follett was discovered in 1948, but was misidentified as another missing individual, Elsie Whittemore. Whitmore, sorry. He explained that the body was found on Pulsifer Hill, half a mile from a farmhouse where Follett and Rogers had a long-standing rental agreement. The possessions found with the body were consistent with Follett's belongings. However, local police were unaware of her disappearance and had no record of it. The cause of death was determined to be suicide, as a bottle containing barbiturate residue was found at the scene, a substance Follett was known to have been taking. So this is like a cold case, but at the same time it's an open case, but it's not. It's both. Because the evidence, that's really weird. All right, so this guy decides in 2019 that he's going to do some research on this woman. Probably read her books, became fascinated by her, and wondered what happened to her. Okay. The possessions found with the body were consistent with Follett's belongings. All right. I wasn't born in the 30s. You people weren't born in the 30s, but educate me. They had ID in the 30s, didn't they? So her belongings obviously didn't. Well, she left with $30, right? That's all they said she left with. That's where the $30 comes in handy here. She didn't bring her ID. If she had one, if IDs existed in the 30s, I would imagine they did. She didn't have one on her. The possessions found with the body were consistent with her belongings. But aside from the $30, we don't know if she had anything else on her. We're going to go off on the assumption that she didn't. Now, if she had $30 and this person had $30, we're like, really? That's it? However, local police were unaware of her disappearance as they had no record of it, obviously. The cause of death was... All right, this is the body of Elsie Whitmore, supposedly, which was determined to be suicide. It was a bottle containing barbiturate residue, a substance that Follett was known to have been taking. So that pretty much sounds like they solved it. They just haven't officially closed the case because they're like, well, in the off chance that it isn't. So, should I even give my theories? I mean, it's set in stone right there. You know what? Just for the sake of it, because this is a short video, let's dive into this, shall we? Let us dive into this. All right, so the first theory, it's right there for you. She actually died in 1948. They found a body, but the police misidentified the body because they didn't know that Barbara, what was her middle name? Newhall. Barbara Newhall Follett. They didn't know she was missing because she was under her married name of Rogers and not Follett, so they didn't make the connection. But again, the husband and the mother sound suspicious. I think I have... sorry, I got a mosquito bite on my leg. Second, okay, so the first theory, she actually died in 1948, and she committed suicide by taking a barbiturate residue, or barbiturate, whatever. Theory number 2, the husband did it. It would explain why it took him so goddamn long to file a missing persons report. And yeah, theory number 3 did it. I don't know if anyone's ever thought of that, but come on, you wait 13 years to go poke into the police. Hey, you gonna look into my daughter's disappearance? I'm like, lady, where were you 13 years ago when it happened? Like, why didn't you ask then? So there's 3. 4? 4, why not? She just walked out and she assumed a new life. People do that. She assumed a new life. No one would ever know because she only had $30 to her name, you know? So, yeah. Very weird case, right? For just someone to just walk, being a child prodigy, writing 2 novels. So she was fairly famous by the time she was 25 still. And just, I don't want this life. I'm going to walk away from it and my husband. Start anew or kill myself. Who knows? Who knows what she was thinking? I would ask which one you think it is, but we don't do that anymore. And I keep stressing that, but I don't feel like whatever. Whatever. But what we're going to do to extend this is we're going to look into another article to see if there's anything different. Because that one was a bit shabby. All right. On the evening of December 7th, 1937, after an argument with her husband, Nickerson Roger. Oh, see, we get his first name. His name was Nickerson. What kind of first name is Nickerson? I've never heard of such a thing. Barbara Newhall Follett left their home in Brookline, Massachusetts with $30 and a notebook. Oh, see, the notebook wasn't in the first one. This is interesting. She would never be seen from again. Okay. So she had $30 to her name in a notebook. She was a writer. Maybe she thought inspiration would strike. Like, I left my husband. This would be a good novel. Then again, Agatha Christie did that once. Oh, these are pictures. And it's actually not an article. It's actually you can actually hear it. But we're not going to play it because that would be weird. Record for, wait a minute here. Record for divorce. Husband's name in full. Date of marriage, July 7th, 1934. Date of divorce, February 11th, 1944. Cause, absence for 3 years without being heard of. So he filed for divorce because he hadn't heard from her for 3 years. But in reality, it was 39, 40, 40, 41, 41, 42, 43, 34, 39, 40, 42. It was like 6 years. So it wasn't 3. He waited 4 months. That's weird. That is really weird. The divorce attempt was successful. The actual divorce records, courtesy of New Hampshire, that's really bizarre. Oh, her mother was Helen J. Thomas Follett, and she was a published author of many travel books. That's interesting. There was only one photo of Nickerson Rogers, which is got a photo. He's got some type of weird circle thing around him. It shows you a bunch of photos. I didn't. Hey, wait a minute. Huh. That's interesting. I'm sorry. It's like a bunch of pictures. I didn't realize. I just assumed it was going to be. But just trying to see if there's any more information here. Let's try that one. All right, here we go. What happened to Barbara Newhall Follett? We know she's extremely gifted. It's a guy reading about what he thinks happened to her. Pop-ups. Gotta love pop-ups. Oh my God. 2 of them. Get out of here. All right. And it brought me all the way to the bottom of the page. Jeez. Pop up. All right. One thing is certain, Barbara had a vivid imagination, and those who lived with were required to take her fantasies very seriously. Don't go sit there, Daddy, Barbara would say when her father took a seat at the dinner table. That's where Beethoven sits. Barbara invented her own language, Fark Sioux. She was in awe of words and books, but perhaps even more so of nature. Her debut novel, The House Without Windows, the title being a metaphor to nature itself, is an incredibly sensitive. Oh, okay. We don't want to know about her life. We want to know why she disappeared. In 1931, she fell in love with Nickerson Rogers. Did the betrayal by the two most important men in her life bring Barbara Newhall Follett down? Did a violent act or accident occur in the apartment on that tragic evening? Or was it her own doing, and did Barbara finally act on a dream she had all along, which she described in her debut novel through the eyes of Earpersip, a young girl who runs away from her family to live in the wild? Oh, there's another theory. If she's alive, Barbara would be 104. She could have built that beautiful house deep in the woods she dreamed of. However, I believe it isn't, and she didn't. For her sake, I'll keep digging, and I do hope one day I'll be able to tell you what happened to Barbara on this mysterious December night. So this guy thinks that she pulled a Ralph Waldo Emerson and lived in nature. It's not a bad thought, you know. Happier times, happier life than the one you had. Why not? What do I think happened? I'm really not sure. I mean, I think I think something happened to her. I think that I think she did commit suicide, or someone killed her. It's way too, like, there's not a lot to go on. So whatever is there, I'm taking it. But yeah, this has been the latest episode of Mystery Unsolved and the last episode of the season. But fret not, I'm going to be back with another season, and kicking off that season will be the MV Joita. I found it. I came across it. It's a mystery. It's unsolved, and we'll be talking about it during the next episode. So until then, I am your host, Justin Bienvenu. This has been Mystery Unsolved, the disappearance of Barbara Follett.